Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan T. Husk.
And I'm Kit Bowen, and welcome to Creation Entertainment's podcast.
Today, we've got a fantastic episode for you. Our co-creator, Adam Malin, interviews Giancarlo Esposito. This interview took place at our recent Trek to Las Vegas convention, the biggest convention in the history of the world, practically. You know Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian, amazing in that. And he was also Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, like pretty much the greatest performance I've ever seen in my life.
One of the best villains of all time, I think.
Totally.
Absolutely. Can't wait to hear that. And then on the Pop Culture Cinema Squad, Adam and I talk about the Jurassic Park / World franchise and what we love about that franchise, which is one of my dearest to my heart as well.
Jurassic Park was a game changer in the 90s. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. All right, everybody, sit back, relax, pop in some sunflower seeds or whatever you do, and enjoy today's episode of the Creation Entertainment Podcast.
Enjoy.
And without any further ado, the man, the legend, this astounding actor, he's a total creative. He can direct, he can produce, he can develop, but you all know him in 1,000 different roles that he's done. It's such an honor to welcome to the Vegas stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together in a warm welcome for Mr. Giancarlo Esposito.
Hey there, hey there! I love it. Yeah. Wow. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Wow, I'm in Vegas.
For him.
Love being in Vegas, baby. It is late night. I knew it was late night. I love late night. There's a whole late night setup.
You are such a looker, man. He's gorgeous, isn't he? Sheesh.
Thank you, thank
Good
you, thank you.
genes, man. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Is this an awkward configuration for us to talk, or are you all right with that?
I'm okay with it. If
Be-
you're comfortable, everyone should be comfortable.
I mean, I've got a lot of notes here because I was fascinated by your career. So forgive me if I spread out and refer to them because I just got so much to dig into. But first of all, I mean, you're such a creative dude. Tell me about your parents.
Well, I was, raised in a very creative household. My mother was an opera singer who started at Caramoo House in Cleveland, Ohio, and won the Marian Andership Opera Scholarship and went to Europe with a show called Porgy and Bess. And
I mean, the best.
yeah, the best.
Gershwin.
Met my father in San Carlo Opera at the base of the Boot in Napoli, and they fell in love and were married. And
An Italian romance.
yeah, Italian romance.
Holy Toledo.
I've been wanting for a long time, tell my mother's story. She used to always laugh and say, "Oh, I got to write a book. Oh, I got to write a book." And then later, she got to be 80 and change. "Oh, you'll write it for me."
All right, forgive me. Tell me the ethnicity of your parents.
My father is Neapolitan Giovanni Esposito.
Unbelievable. He's an Italiano. South Italian, which is important.
South Italian.
You know,
very important.
different than the Northern Italians.
Extremely different. Extremely different.
Yeah, and mom?
And mom is African American from Wylam, Alabama.
Unbelievable. So your mom is an opera singer, and what were the challenges that she went through in her career being a black person? I mean, it was tough, right?
Sure, in the late 50s and early 60s, and she was young and impressionable and very vulnerable. She came up in Cleveland in the church, played piano alongside her mother, sang Negro spirituals, and then went to Caramoo House, which was a training ground for creative artists, dancers, singers, actors, and developed her vocal talent.
Caramoo House is pretty famous.
It's very famous. Yeah. And I don't know if you folks know that Cleveland is like the second Broadway.
Yeah, for sure.
Many, many wonderful theaters and all that. So she really plied her talent, won a scholarship, and then was off to Europe and discovered a different world in Europe that she really enjoyed.
So you were born in Italy and
I was actually born, I'm the oddball of the family. I was born in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my mother was there performing with Josephine Baker and doing a nightclub
That's
act.
amazing, by the way.
Yep. who I met, which was amazing as well.
Unbelievable.
And so I was born there. My brother, before me, was born in Rome, and we grew up a little bit of touring in Europe to Hamburg, where my mother performed at the Hamburg Staatsopera, and then back to Italy because, of course, that was my father's home. He had moved from Naples to Rome and got involved in the theater as a carpenter, property man, and lighting man.
I mean, it's a show business family, so it's not a big surprise it's in your DNA.
This is the truth. I mean, what happens in the household, especially when you're young, to creative parents is that you, as a child, you absorb everything. So there was always operatic music playing.
Best.
And my mother preferred some, my father preferred different, but always very classical, operatic, and then show tunes, and always a creative household extends that vision and that feeling to any younger child who's growing up with
Or
it.
20th century greats like George Gershwin.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
So that's an amazing musical legacy to grow up in and to be influenced by.
Absolutely. I mean, I can think of Gershwin a lot because my mother adored Gershwin because of his lyrical writing and because of his musicality and because he was able to transcend so many different forms in what he did. But I remember as a child growing up meeting as a child Leonard Bernstein in New York.
Unbelievable.
And so
The maestro.
Yeah, the maestro. I have a very classical upbringing in that sense from theater onward, which extended to me doing 13 Broadway musicals and meeting and working with some of the greats like Hal Prince and Stephen Sondheim.
We're going to talk about that because I know you did a bunch of stuff on Broadway. You work with the great Shirley Jones, which is pretty incredible because I kind of have a love affair with that woman. But just tell me a little bit about your college days. Elizabeth Seton College, and any comments about that?
Yeah, well, so I got to Elizabeth Seton College in a very interesting way, making the transition from being an adolescent to a teenager. And so work became a little less it wasn't a lot of work for me at that point in time. And my mother one day suggested that I get a degree. And I think it's something that all parents think of with their children. You know, if you're going to be in a creative world, what if you don't make it? You got to have a plan B. So
you were in Manhattan at this time.
I was in Yonkers, New York.
In Yonkers,
Yeah.
good old Yonkers.
I moved from
Right.
Riverdale to Yonkers to Elmsford.
Yep.
And so she said she had noticed there was an associate's degree in radio and television communications and wondered if I might be interested. And I was. And so I went and I enrolled in a 2-year program, which opened me up to learn the other side. And it's something that helps me to this day as I eventually became a director as well and a producer. And so I had my own radio show. I worked with a guy, a professor named Brad Gormelski there, who was a wannabe Broadway guy who had never been on Broadway but knew all of the show tunes and every show. He was just like a library of all the music and all the great Broadway shows. And so, and I had done, by that time, I had done probably 8 Broadway musicals already. And so I learned how to have my own radio show and be my own engineer. And then we would do plays at the college. And then I learned camera work. So this was my first cable television had not yet really developed. And in New Rochelle, there was a company called UA Columbia. So in my second year, I did an internship at UA Columbia.
What year is this, 69? Or?
This is 1979, 78, 79.
Well, you had already been on Broadway then.
For a long time,
right.
back to back.
Right.
And so I took that time to study. And so we were pulling cable into the Iona College gym to shoot all the basketball games. And so we would do, community service stuff. We'd shoot the basketball games. And I got a sense of the first digital Ikegami camera that was used at that time. And cable was something completely different. And I remember after getting my degree in 79, 1980, things were still slow. And my professor said, there's these auditions for Channel 5 to become a cameraman. And I enjoyed my camera work so much, and I was really very good at it, that that I went and had an interview. I didn't get the job. Had I gotten the job, it may have changed my life forever because I'd be shooting, Good Morning America.
But getting behind the camera really just gives you that amazing perspective, being in front of the camera and being behind the camera, much less, you're working in a videographic medium when you were coming from live stage. But before we get off that, I really just want to talk about Broadway a little bit. First of all, I'm like a Sondheim freak. And you were in Merrily We Roll Along. Any reflections and remembrances of that?
Oh my goodness, this show was a real, it was a challenge for us in Merrily We Roll Along, because we were faced with a show that really had such a very dramatic effect on Hal and Stephen, because in a way it reflected their relationship and their growth together, and so it was difficult, I think, in the end to find what really worked, because they were concerned that as the show progressed, these young people looking back, going backwards in time, looking back at their lives, that we were so good as actors, all of us. Daisy Prince was in it, Hal's daughter. Of course, James Weisenbach was on our first cast, Lonnie Price, Ann Morrison. And we were all such good actors and we were wearing, adult clothing, that they didn't get the sense that there was this childhood wonder and vulnerability that you could see going backwards. So they changed all the costumes, and they got rid of all of the adult costumes and put in T-shirts and jeans, and we were labeled on the front, the director, the stage manager. They were trying to figure out a way to lighten it up because they had the feeling that people wouldn't get it. And so the experience of watching them work together was really pretty amazing. Hal, he came from opera, and he put big, huge productions.
We're talking about the great Hal Prince now, right?
Hal Prince, the great Hal Prince.
Yeah.
I mean, he was such a visionary in that way. And Stephen would come up with songs on a dime and be inspired by some of the writing of what the play was. George Firth wrote the book. And just come up with these incredible songs. So I was enamored with their relationship, because partnerships in life, you can do nothing alone. You do things, you can be inspired alone, you can write alone, you can do all that. But eventually you have to let the world in by letting somebody read it.
And Stephen was very hands-on on the production, right?
He really was.
I mean, so you worked with Stephen Sondheim. What was that like?
I think Stephen was an absolute genius, because he was always inspired by what was inside him. He would stop and close his eyes. He would see notes. He'd write those notes down and come back to you and finish the conversation, because he knew that was the beginning of something that would fit into what you were talking about, and it would inform the scene. So I think Stephen was more than just a songwriter. I think Stephen was a visionary in terms of the dramatic content and the reflection of the writing that the show could contain. And I think that, in a way, kind of, it made Hal a little nervous on this show.
Well, because, Hal probably wanted to play a little safer, and Stephen always got out of everybody's comfort zones. One of the greatest character developers in Broadway, to say nothing of his incredible lyrical and musical skills. I mean, his prose and his musical abilities were prodigious too. I mean, just listen to, let's say, Comedy Tonight, and listen to the way that thing is written. I mean, he wrote the thing musically. It's crazy. Just tell me, okay, well, I want to get onto your film career, but just one more reflection on the stage live. Just tell us the vibe about playing live. I mean, you did it for many years. It's thrilling. Just kind of give us your reflection on being on the stage.
You never know what's going to happen, and the thrilling thing is you have to count on your gut and your instinct. You make a connection with the audience, and the stage and theater has taught me all that I know about my simple personal connections that I make in conversations. It's nerve-wracking because
it's live.
It's live, and you have to hit it. And you have to be on and figure out the energy of inside your own body, but also be inclusive of the energy in the audience. There's nothing like it ever that you could experience, because some nights your energy will be in a certain place, and you could be high, you could be low. You always bring it up because there's an expectation that the people sitting in the seats are part of the production. So you want them to enjoy it. And everything leaves you. For me, anything leaves me. Depression, being sad, arguments, you know, the elation of having gotten a soap opera job earlier that day, because everything becomes present and in the now. And that is the beauty and joy of the musical theater and theater in general.
It's a gift. Now, you mentioned soaps. You did some work in soaps. You were on Another World and one of my favorites, Guiding Light, which around the time that you were on, I was watching it myself prodigiously. I'm a big General Hospital guy today, but Guiding Light was the show in that era. So just a couple of thoughts about your time on the soaps.
It gave me the opportunity to learn how to work the camera. And, you know, you only had a few cameras in a soap opera, you didn't, you know, whereas, and it was television, but it was very much like theater. So to me, it was a perfect transition. It was also the germination of me figuring out how to be bad, how to figure out the bad guy. You know, how to figure out the guy who was in many ways the driver of the story, because everyone was focused on that bad guy because he was the disruptor of what was happening in the story.
And what are the elements of a good antagonist?
I think a good antagonist has to be committed to not being heard for his good side and bringing in all of the vulnerability and all of the parts that have him feel like he's less than enough, to honor him and to inform his terrible actions.
Oh my God, I'm having so much fun. This is so great, Giancarlo. All right, start talking to us about your film and your television career. How did it kind of start? How did you get into that?
From those early days of soap operas, I started to learn how to work the camera. And I was doing quite well with doing guest spots on different shows until I met Shirley Rich. Shirley Rich was a casting director who was really a beautiful human being and, you know, incredibly honest, which in our business today you don't meet. You walk in a room, you read something, and they say thank you, which means, okay, it's time to leave. You didn't do very well. You know what I mean?
They're huge allies, though, and they could be huge advocates for you.
Shirley Rich was an advocate. I think of her to this day. She's long been gone. I read for a film called Taps that was to star Timothy Hutton, Sean Penn. It was to be produced by 20th Century Fox. And I read the part, and Shirley read opposite me across her desk, and she looked at me, and she looked down, and she looked up, and she measured whether or not she could tell me the truth. And she said, Giancarlo, you need to learn how to act. Wow. Now, I had been on Broadway.
It's crazy.
And then she went, let me amend that. You need to learn how to act for the camera. You're actually very good, but everything is too big. And I said, Shirley, I'm Italian. Everything is a big with Italians. And she said, well, that's the whole point. You got to bring the camera to you. I'll never forget her words. You have to invite the camera into you. And I think you should go do some drama.
Become more internal.
Become more internal.
Yeah.
And she gave me advice to go do some plays because I had done all Broadway musicals. Well, I went away from there. I cried. I licked my wounds. And I started to work at Henry Street Settlement in New York. And I did a play called Who Loves the Dancer? And I did a play called Keyboard with the great Cleavon Little. Wow. And I started to really ply my dramatic teeth. And a year later, I got a phone call. Shirley Rich called. She wants you to come in and read for this film called Taps. And I'm like, that's a deja vu. They've already done that movie. And I was told by my manager, Toby Gibson, God rest her soul, no, they didn't do it. They postponed it, and she wants you to read again.
Crazy. And you ended up getting the role.
I ended up walking in and getting the role.
So crazy.
She said to me, Giancarlo, what did you do? And I said, Shirley, I did what you told me to do. And I explained I had done
Excellent.
2 plays. And,
right.
you know, look, you can't lead unless you can follow. When someone gives you advice and it's someone you respect like Shirley Rich, you know it's coming from a true place. And, yeah, I got the movie, and I think the world of her. And that started, because your question was, how did my film and TV career get started? It got started there because I had the confidence to keep going and to to really look at the material and internalize it, make it my own, and make it smaller. And then my career in television and film started to really work.
Forgive me, our time is so fleeting. I want the audience to have a chance to ask questions too. One of the ways in which I became familiar with your career is through the work of one of my favorite filmmakers, Spike Lee. I love Spike Lee's films. I love them, and you've been in several of them. Tell us about Spike.
Spike is an interesting guy. I love him a lot. I met him when I was doing a play that I won the Obie and Theater World Award for at the Negro Ensemble Company called Zoom Man and the Sign. He came to see it. He asked to come see me backstage. He said, I got a script called School Days. I'd love for you to be in. And we started hanging out, talking about history, film.
Great film.
Really great film. And I fell in love with his enthusiasm, his commitment, and his desire to tell his story. And I think
And by the way, he's very honest too.
He's terribly honest.
He tells it like it is.
He tells it like it is.
It can be painful sometimes.
It can be very painful. Spike and I have had our differences, and I've been on the set with him during School Days where I made up my own lines, and he goes, cut! And he's on a ladder with a bullhorn. Cut! Who said that? And everyone is silent. There are 300 extras. Who said that? Spike, I said that. That was good. Say it again. And I've been in a position where it's like, cut, I do the right thing. Giancarlo, you can't say that. No, just do the lines. Just do the lines. So he respects me because I experiment. I push the envelope like he does. But again, I listen and I take. I don't think that I know better. I love collaborating with Spike Lee. We just did a Fiat commercial together. If you haven't seen it,
nice. No,
you got to see this
I
Fiat
gotta
commercial.
See it. I got to see it.
We had so much fun.
I'll Google search it.
Yeah, you should see it.
Fiat commercial.
It's really terrific.
I'm going to check it out. One of his most seminal works. I love this movie, Do the Right Thing. It's such an incredible film, and you had such a memorable turn in that. Do you remember the making of that film?
Oh, I sure do. I remember the rehearsing for it. I remember him coming to me saying, Giancarlo, what you gonna do with your hair? What you gonna do with your hair? I said, Spike, it's gonna come to me. Well, we gotta shoot in a week. Better come to you quick. And
Crazy.
I figured out the haircut. What I loved about Do the Right Thing was Spike trusted me. He allowed me to figure out who this guy was from his writing. He allowed me to figure out how I wanted to look. He was really in the creative mode where he knew that I had to be inspired before I did something. And he knew I was inspired by him. There's a great documentary by St. Clair Bourne of the making of Do the Right Thing, where you'll see me before Bugging Out's persona came to light via hair and facial hair and what he looked like in glasses. The glasses was the whole thing. I designed these glasses. I had an inspiration that this guy was such a beefy, strong guy, and he was going against the system of Sal's and the pizzeria, but I wanted to give him some weakness. And at that time, I thought if you wore glasses, it made you look like you had a little bit of a weakness. So I went to Ma Bella on 9th Avenue and 45th Street. I said, Ma Bella, I want to have glasses. They got to be round. They got to be thick bifocal. How can we do it? And we started thinking about it. She said, okay, I'm going to measure from here to the glass, and I'm going to make a thick bifocal, and then I'm going to reverse the prescription with a contact lens. So when I had the glasses on without the contact lens, I couldn't see. When I had the contact lens on without the glasses, I couldn't see. But them together, I could see. And Spike was, Giancarlo, you going to wear glasses? Really? You going to wear glasses? Spike, it's going to work. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, bet. And it worked.
The character's so great.
It
worked so perfectly.
It worked so perfectly.
So perfectly, Okay, so then I remember you had a great turn on Homicide. That was a good show, man. Talk a little bit about that. Anybody remember that? Really, fantastic.
Yeah, Barry Levinson, Tom Fontana was the showrunner. I was thinking about Barry because I watched a piece of Alto Nights that Barry Levinson directed. He's a great filmmaker. He and his collaboration, once again, very inspiring with he and Fontana. I loved it. I stepped in the year that Andre Braugher was leaving because they needed a new A storyline, and I wound up being G's son, Mike Giardello, and it was one of my first episodic television gigs. So you got the sense, you don't get a feeling of doing something until you do it. And put yourselves in that position when you're faced with a new life choice or something to do in your lives. Throw yourself in and do it, because it gives you an idea of what that experience might be. Homicide did that.
And you had ended up being a go-to guy for a lot of procedurals on TV.
Sure did. Went from that to do
Yeah.
Law and Order.
Yep.
Was dying for a regular recurring role on Law and Order. Would have changed my life forever. You know, New York actor, poor, ride my bicycle, eat brown rice and beans, from the theater to auditions to the Law and Order set down on the Hudson River. And it never happened, but I was able to come back more than one time in Law and Order as different characters, just as I did on a number of different shows that I had done at that time. So it taught me how to be flexible. And I really loved that I didn't become a 20-year player on Law and Order, because you wouldn't see me in all these other characters.
Okay, oh my God, so many questions. So, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
All right, how did you first meet Vince Gilligan? How did that all come about?
It was an audition situation at a time where I wasn't auditioning anymore. At a certain time, you got to go, I'm not going to audition, you got to offer me the part. But I wasn't like that Hollywood stuck-up guy who wouldn't audition. I just thought, well, look at my work. You know, you can see. And then I was told, I was up in Canada doing a show called Once Upon a Time. They asked me to go into a...
Which was a great show, by the way. You were the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
And you were fantastic, by the way. We loved you.
Yeah,
and that's a great show.
Great show.
Once Upon a Time, yeah.
And they asked me,
Lana,
go
yeah.
read for this casting director. And I went in, the casting director gave me 15 notes, local casting director. And I listened, and I realized I'm going to do it the same way I just did it. And then she gave me a few more notes, and I realized those notes are all wrong. I'm going to do it the same way I just did it. And she smiled and said, thank you. And I knew what I was doing, because they called me and they said, okay, would you fly to California and read for the casting director there, Sharon Bialy? And I went, oh, really? You know, I didn't even want to audition for this role. They said, yeah, we know. Sharon Bialy then calls me and says, Giancarlo, I've known you for years. If you come in and read with me, you're going to get this part. I said, how do you know that? She said, Giancarlo, I know it. They love you. This is just a formality. So I flew to California. I read with, because you know, Vince, you know, all these, Philip Seymour Hoffman was begging, knocking down the door for all these incredible actors wanted to do this role.
What a role.
And Vince knew it was me. So I went in and I read with Sharon Bialy. I walked out an hour later. They're calling me. Vince wants to talk to you on the phone. You got the part.
That's so fucking
And it
great.
was a guest spot. Like, this is the whole thing. If you're asking me to fly to California for a movie or for a series regular, that's different. This was like one episode. I mean, really? I'm paying more money for one episode to fly to California. You're going to pay me to do the episode.
Oh, wait, Gus was the big bad. He was fabulous. He's, in fact, so fabulous that I happen to hold in my hands here a Los Pollos Hermanos shot glass
Love it.
that my wife and I proudly use. I'm just saying, we love that. Tell us about your Gus Fring is such an incredible character. Of course, a lot of his motivation comes from the fact that his lover was murdered by the Big Don, that whole disgusting thing that happened, and then your revenge that you plotted out with the poison, willing to poison yourself to go through that just to kill the Don and his gang. Just tell us a little bit about Gus. Give us just a minute of your reflections on Gus. What an epic character.
Gus taught me so much. I had to figure out a way to play him surrounded by really perfect writing that I did not want to change, not even one word. My ego was completely out of it, and I was asking for inspiration as to how do I create this very close to the vest, subtle, complicated human being. It was through my breath. I realized if I incorporated my own timing, allowed myself to breathe in between the lines, I'd be calmer. I'd be much more connected to who I am inside.
He was so measured. I mean, he came off, you know, so obsessive compulsive with the way everything was so neat, but so internally composed.
Yes, this is what I wanted, and the inspiration came to me one day after I was meditating, and I realized if you take your own timing and you breathe and you pay attention to your scene partner, you take them in, you see everything about them, this would be very intimidating. It would make people feel uncomfortable, and that's when I learned that we as human beings are not comfortable with an awkward and uncomfortable moment. But all of our interactions, in a way, are awkward and uncomfortable. That's why we answer before you've asked the question, or before you've finished asking the question. I'm answering, because we're really people pleaser people. We want to make each other happy, but we leave out the place to be mindful and thoughtful. And that was Gus. And so when Vince said to me, you know, thank you for creating this character, I said, Vince, you created this character. He said, no, you did. We argue over it. You did. He said, look, I wrote the words and you brought it to life. But when a character teaches you something as an actor, it changes your life. It taught me how to be more direct, more blunt. It taught me how to act without words. Actors, we love to talk. This is what we do. We're supposed to command the words and be poetic and make it sound good even if it's not written good, you know?
And then working with actors like Brian and Aaron and Bob, I mean, oh my God, these guys that you work with are such masters too, and the way that your chemistry with them.
Truly, Jonathan Banks, you know, is a guy, an unsung hero, as Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad, and
so
then
fabulous.
in Better Call Saul.
Yeah. So tragic.
Tragic. I love Jonathan as an actor. Very cool, very calm. We got to know each other because we were both staying in a, you know, staycay hotel, and there's a gym the size of your desk. And I would walk in, and I would turn the television off and get on the bicycle and ride the bicycle. Jonathan would come in and turn Fox News up or whatever it was, and turn it up really loud, and he'd look at me and just stare at me. And I'd look back over him. I said, "You rude motherfucker."
My God, your career is so sprawling. I don't have enough time to talk about it. I wanted to talk about Maze Runner. I wanted to talk about stuff that you've done in the Marvel Comics universe. Let's at least say a breath or two about Moff Gideon.
You have something I want.
He's an epic character.
Epic. Moff Gideon changed my life.
Oh, you work with John. By the way, the great Jon Favreau. Oh my, what a genius he is.
Genius.
And you work with him on Jungle Book.
I sure did.
Yeah,
I worked with him on Jungle Book. We continued our collaboration after talking about you know, that particular project. He mentioned to me, wouldn't it be great if someone, you know, remade Lion King? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. Or a Jungle Book. It was, and a year later, after working on that commercial, it didn't come to fruition. He then called and said, "Guess what?" Because I had given him the idea, and we had talked about. John called me and said, "Would you?" I got good news and bad news. What's the good news, John? The good news is I wrote a role for you as a moth. I said, "A moth?" He said, "No, a moth."
The moths are there.
I said, "You mean I'm going to have wings and be a moth? I'm going to eat some
They're
material."
badass in the Star Wars universe. The moths are the best.
Totally. And he said, a moth. He said, you know, go watch some movies. I said, I'll do it. And,
great.
And he said, but I can't pay you anything because everything's going into the volume. Volume is a room like this. All the lights on the ceiling are cameras. And he explained that to me. That's where all the money's going. I said, great, John. You know, I just want to work with you. Any request? I have to have a cape. Okay, good. Boom, we're off and running. I mean, literally, you know, I want to work with great people. And when your associations bring you to a point where you can say yes to a master, why not? And then I got introduced to another master, Dave Filoni, who knows all about that world. So
he's the patron saint of Star Wars.
Unbelievable. He's like a little kid, and it taught me how to be unjaded
Yeah.
and see the world as if through the eyes of someone who's never seen it before. This is the key. It's Dave Filoni.
You really wielded that Darksaber, man. Let me tell you, and from what I understand, you did a whole bunch of those choreographed sequences yourself. Tell us about that.
You know, I came out and you know, there's stunt people all around. We hadn't rehearsed because a stuntman's going to do it. John was up in his office, and I came out and they brought out my stunt double. My stunt double was 50 pounds lighter. His shoulders were slumping forward. 30 pounds lighter, 25 years younger than me. And I looked over at this kid, and he was in my costume. He looked great. It was no problem. But I went, how is anyone going to believe that? And so I called for John to come down, and I said, John, look. He said, what? What's going on? I said, well, look over there. And he looked, and he said, oh, I see your concern. I mean, I'm a guy, it's like in my late 50s. How is that going to look? So I said, John, I got to do this fight scene. He said, can you? I said, yeah, I can.
You were badass.
I literally went behind the curtain with Lateef Crowder, martial artist who was in the suit with that fight scene, went behind the curtain, rehearsed it for 30 minutes, one number at a time, and went out and did that. And I'm so proud of that.
So elegant and so beautiful, man. I loved you. I loved you. Oh, my God. I had 1,000 more questions I can't get to. You are so generous to give me that time. Thank you, man. I love you. Okay, let's go. Give it up to the audience now. Okay, we're going to start over on that side, please.
Here we go.
So going back to the discussion about your work with Spike Lee, your roles in Do the Right Thing and School Days, I think for me, as someone who was growing up Black and Ashkenazi Jewish, were particularly memorable. And so I'm curious about how you brought in your own experience as a Black Italian into shaping those roles and thinking about how they would be performed, particularly in Do the Right Thing, where you're actually feeling very strongly about the negative impact that the white Italian community is having on the Black community in Brooklyn.
There were many conversations in regard to my being mixed race, and Spike always joked me and would say, "Hey, Giancarlo, if there's a race war, you're an Italian, you half Italian. If there's a race war, which side you gonna pick? Which side? What are you gonna choose?" And I would always say to Spike, I choose the side of humanity. I was my father was alive then, Giovanni, and he was teaching in New York at that time, languages. And I was very well aware of his presence in my life and what he'd think about it. I also had a very good relationship with the late, great Danny Aiello. And
He's a monster actor.
Monster actor, singer,
so
dancer,
great.
actor, the whole thing.
He was so great in that movie.
So great. So we were really, really aware of how sensitive that last scene would be. And some of it was improvised. And so all of his childhood anger toward blacks came out. It just came out because it was right under the surface. All of my childhood anger about not being accepted for who I am, and white people just calling me black, not understanding that I was a representation not only of them as well as African American people, made me angry. So all of our anger came up and that scene came to life. So there was a lot in that movie that really changed my perception and helped me to understand my answer to Spike was really who I am. I would choose the side of humanity. You see the good and the bad and all. Since that film, I've been back to Napoli with 3 of my children, and I really understand myself even more from that trip. To be mixed race is to embrace all of who you are, and is to champion both sides of that being. And is to, partly for me, is to bring people together, to have them understand, like race people, we're our own entity in so many ways because no one understands us. You know, I've been asked my whole life when people look at my hair and they go, "What are you? What are you?" You know, and they make fun of my name and all this. Well, I'm not a kid anymore. I can represent myself for actually all of who I am and embrace all of my African American parts of me and all of my Italian parts as well.
Amazing. A great question. Thank you so much. And such a great role for you in such a great film. I'll never forget that movie, how incredible it was. Yeah.
Hi, yes. Just an honor to be here and to see you. You're probably why I came here, to spend the money to be here, honestly, at the convention. When I saw Moff Gideon's character, I saw Darth Vader brought to life with James Earl Jones' face allowed to be matched with a powerful voice. For me, I see the Afro side, but I see the full you, as you said. Thank you for that. My question comes from the power you have to command, like you said, the voice, command the audience, command the camera. I'm actually a pastor and minister, and I grew up with a speech impediment growing up, but I speak almost every week. Where do you go to connect and command that voice, to connect with the people like you do?
Amazing question.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful question. James Earl Jones is a friend of mine. I work with him in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof on Broadway. My brother had done The Great White Hope, where I first met him. You know his story, obviously, why he became an actor because of his speech impediment. I think it's to get beyond the fear of speaking, and Broadway did this for me. Large audiences, we fear to misstep, to say something wrong, to make a mistake, to not be eloquent. When in actuality, that's a part of us as well. And so we just make a correction and keep going. It connected me with my sincerity. So where I find the power is through my spiritual life. It really is. I go back to church. You know, I go to church on Sunday. I pray in the day. I meditate. I am not the be-all and end-all. I am the channel for another will and another strength that I am able to allow to come through me, which means I have to constantly revisit humility. Because as human beings, we learn so much, but I'm really nothing. And that's really the truth. You have to come back to that unjaded nothingness, that abyss of nothingness, to allow the mystical version of our universe, God, Goddess, Scripture, mysticism, to work through you to give you that power. So I have no power without the battery. So I recharge the battery, I keep going.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And you are so beautifully well spoken. It is amazing to hear you talk. It's incredible in person as well as in your roles. Yes.
Hi, I don't know if this is actually something you can answer, but you're just so talented, and with Captain America, you felt so underutilized. So I'm just wondering, was that the role you signed on for? And if there were changes, were you happy with your utilization in the end?
I love this movie. I love Marvel. The fan casting is real. They had wanted me to be Professor Charles Xavier, Professor X. Marvel folks, when I went to an Emmy, said we're really aware, but we're not ready to do that. But you're on our radar. We'd love to work with you. I said I'd love to work with you. I love Louis D. Esposito. I love Kevin Feige, and I let it go. And then I got a phone call saying that they want to talk to you about Captain America. They'd like you to jump in, which means the movie was finished being made. They tested it. They needed to make some changes, and they thought that they would like me to play the head of the Serpent Society, King Cobra. And I got all excited because I was in Mexico, and I had gone to the museum and seen Diego Rivera, and the Mexicans really worship snakes. I thought this is the perfect role. I should say yes. And then they came back and said, Kevin said, we can't name him King Cobra, but we want your input. And they gave me a list of names. But he's basically, so I went, between that time and talking to Kevin, I had gone back and looked up Seth Volker and who this guy was. And I did my deep dive on Seth Volker, and we came up with Sidewinder as a name, and I went down there for literally 7 days. And I was in fight training. I knew how to fight. I knew how to shoot, shooting and fight training, brushing all that stuff up for 3 days. And I was thrown on the set, and I had chemistry with Anthony. And boom, we shot it. I was off. I was done. I was like, finally broke the ice. It wasn't the big role, a huge role that I wanted. And then I get a phone call 3 months later. We tested the movie again, and we wanted to make some changes. And then finally, the executive said to me, Nate Moore. Basically, the bottom line, Giancarlo, is that the audience wants more of you.
Right on.
And so they wrote a 5-page scene, and so that last scene got in, which was really electric between me and Mackie, and I love those guys, I love the franchise, and I love the character. I'd love to come back.
Yeah. We loved it, too. And by the way, I would be remiss, we didn't even have time to talk about it, but congratulations on your Emmy nomination for Stan Edgar and The Boys.
Yeah, baby, thank you.
Which is a fabulous role, and we were talking backstage about Kripke and The Boys, which is such a crazy show, and you're so awesome on that show. Yes.
Hello, thank you for coming. This is really a treat and a pleasure. There's so much of your work, I don't know where to start, but I will piggyback on something someone said earlier. I was an adult before I realized what colorism was. I had to deal with that all my life. And I just really thank that movie for bringing it to light. A lot of Americans don't really know what we deal with in the black community with colorism, and I'm glad that movie brought it to the forefront. And thank you for being part of that.
Thank you. We carry around the weight of our forefathers and our ancestry. It flows through them to us. And whether we know it or not, we carry that. And so for me, the thing that I've been wanting to throw off for so long is the inferior feeling of having to live in brown skin. And it's really helped me to be half Italian. I just came from Italy, and people look at me and they love me. And they're all Italians, true Italians, and they embrace with love. So you carry, my point is, you start to carry something that is hypervigilant, that makes you think you're going to be treated a certain way because of the color of your skin. And that's ingrained, and it's very deep. And so to get rid of that gets rid of your anger. and allows you to accept yourself, which then you can accept everyone else in a different way. You're not ashamed of your heritage or where you come from or who you are. So for me to make trips to Italy constantly reminds me of my universal presence that I've been gifted with, and it's something that I want to pass on to all of you because it translates to love of humanity.
Thank
Right
you.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I recently watched Kaleidoscope and The Residents, and you were great in both of them.
Thank you.
My question about Kaleidoscope, though, is did you film that episode by episode? Did you film it all at once? And if you filmed each episode separately, did you do it in chronological order?
We did not do it in chronological order. I love this show. I think it's very special. It was a great challenge to age backwards 27 years and play essentially two different characters. To be the leader of this heist team was really important to me, and I love the piece. All 8 episodes were already written. I stepped in for some unknown actor who didn't want to do it after COVID, and they wanted me to do it, but they didn't want to wait. I was shooting Better Call Saul, and at the time, and I said, "What is the big rush?" Well, they need you here 3 weeks early to do dive training. I said, "I'm a diver." They said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, everyone should just relax. I have a PADI card. I can swim. I swim every day, and I dive." And so that gave me the opportunity of stepping into that. 2 episode blocks. So we shot 2 episodes at a time, which was really wonderful. For me as a character, because I'm in every episode, in almost every scene, I had to know all of the order of everything. So I laid everything out on a huge table at the AKA Stay-K Hotel in New York, and I referred from one episode to the next all that happened so I could understand it, so I could measure my performance in episode 8 as I did in episode 1 and make these very subtle changes that would allow you to understand that Leo knew where he was going. And that I, as an actor, understood it. So it was complicated, but a wonderful piece to do because normally in television, you get episode by episode. You could be shooting episode 1 this week, and by Thursday, you'll get episode 2 that shoots next week. So then you have to be learning that while you're finishing one episode. With this, I had it all, and I jumped in, and it wasn't without its challenge as we had a director in the first episode's block, the first 2, that didn't work out because he's a great director, but he wasn't there. Be present in your life. Be here now. He was already prepping for his next movie in his head. He didn't know the whole story. And, all the other cast, all 8 young people were like confused. He's not here. And so they came to me and said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're not going to do anything. The studio's got to do something." And then the showrunner and studio got involved, and they called me. And I said, "Look, it's perfectly fine. We got 8 episodes to do. We're going to shoot these 2 episodes, but we're going to wind up reshooting them." And the studio said, "What?" I said, I guarantee you. But that's okay. You just got to spend a lot more money, And they went, "Oh," and they said, "You're really a fearless leader." I said, "I love this guy, he's great. But if you really want this to come out right without having to reshoot the first 2 episodes, you got to get another director." And they did, and we kept going. So it was complicated, but the show turned out great. No numbers. No episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Orange, red, green, blue, purple. It's a heist seen from all these different angles. It's the same heist, but the different story and different viewpoint of everyone who takes part in it. Love this show. Thank you for asking that question.
It's really brilliant and original. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. And how thrilling is it to be a director?
I love
To
directing.
direct.
I love directing. Part of it is that I'm an actor, and so I understand actors. And so what's going around is that I am the actor's director. I don't push them. I don't tell them what to do. I don't give them line readings. I suggest, just like I do with my children now. Can I suggest something? Yeah, you might want to take it or leave it. Think about this. Think about this. While you're doing this, think the opposite. Whatever that is kind of the inspiration to allow them to go through their creative process and do it how they want to do it. You have to measure people. I look at people and I go, "Oh, how much ego does he have? Oh, he ain't got no ego. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he likes, right? How long does it take us to know what we like in our life, right? To really and identify it and say it, right? So then we're shooting in the dark and we don't know what we like. So now I take my own temperature, as I urge all of you to do. You know, how do I feel today? Where's my mood at? You know, am I in a good mood, bad mood? What do I like? What do I dislike? Then it allows you to be more graceful in your life. But directing has taught me how to see the whole picture. As an actor, I see my part. I've got to act with other people. They have their scenes that I'm not in. As a director, I've got to see the whole piece. Did you know, trivia for you, that I directed episode 6 of Better Call Saul?
Wow.
I bet you didn't know that.
What was that episode?
Oh, my God. That was when we went to Germany. It's when
Right,
yeah. It's this whole
right.
storyline about their shaking down Casimiro.
It's a great story.
It's a great story. Anyway, I just thought a little piece of trivia.
And what's so incredible is not only are you thinking about all the dynamics of the character, the actors, their performances into the characters and the character arcs, you've also got to think about all the technical considerations of blocking the scene and where you want the camera and how the scene is going to be physically constructed, and then are you even also thinking over to the editing portion too, all of that?
Absolutely. As you direct, you should think about editing, but you're also I'm in a show that's established. The look was established from Breaking Bad. The look, the great Michael Slovis established that look with Vince. The look for Better Call Saul was equivalent, but had its own idiosyncrasies. And had its own look all its own. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're trying to be able to fit into the style that's already dictated. And you're playing with the big boys. They're all watching you. I was on a Zoom call. Peter Gould, Vince Gilligan, Melissa Bernstein, 25 people. And Peter asked me a question. So we have this scene where this violent action happens. And what do you think about that? How are you going to do that? You know, Peter, I don't know what I want. I don't know. 25 faces on the Zoom go from their phones to the Zoom. They could not believe that I said, I don't know. And then I followed it up. I have an idea of what I want, but I know what I don't want. This is not science fiction. It's not a horror movie. It has to be rooted in reality. Everyone sighed. Okay. Right? Or how afraid are we to say, I don't know? Let's find out together. And that was the end of any trepidation, whether I knew what I was doing, whether I knew the show or not. I was honest. And we talked through that moment, and that moment came out great. So when I was nervous, and I started to answer him when he asked the question, but that was just a knee-jerk answer. A knee-jerk reaction. That's what we do in life. Oh, I got to answer. It's pressure. And instead I went, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm being inspired by reading the script over and over again, and I think I'd like to maybe do this or this, but until we get in the physical location, changes all of it. Then I will know. When I find a location, I'll know where I want to come from. I'll know how I want to see it.
I just decided that you're the world's most interesting man. Yeah.
I guess my question really is, are you still finding it, or have you ever found it, difficult to get the powers that be within the industry, whether it's television or film, or even stage for that matter, to not cast you in something that they think you should be in versus what you are able to do? My brother and I had commented on how many different things we've seen you in. It's like, wow, he just keeps popping up. And I was also commenting on how diverse all of the characters you play. They're not, one note or anything like that. And I noticed that a lot of actors had complained about, being typecast or not being considered for certain roles that they thought they should be able to play. Do you still run into that kind of a problem? Had you ever really run into that kind of a problem?
Oh, I ran into that problem my whole career. The day that changed my life. If you haven't seen a show on AMC called Parish like a church parish.
Oh my God, we didn't even have a chance to talk about that. What a great show Parish was. Did anybody get to see that? That was like your beautiful love project.
It really was, and I had started to produce my own. This is my point, my own material before that with a movie I did with Samuel L. Jackson and Angela Bassett called Gospel Hill in 2007, and that changed my life because it changed the trajectory of my career because I wasn't waiting to be cast in a positive or negative role or in a project that they thought I might be good for, meaning Hollywood or casting or writers. I then realized I could develop my own. And in developing your own, you develop not only the material that your taste links up with, and your passion links up with, but you also develop the road, right? The road that you want to take, the unusual story that you want to tell. And I would imagine that that unusual story is each of your stories. Whether you believe it or not, whether you can say, oh, I have a boring life, my story isn't worth anything, that's not true. Your story is interesting to someone. And so I started to develop my own projects. And so recently I've had a great success. I've been really blessed to be able to get the option on a Stephen King novel called The Dreamers. It's in the creepy horror world. It's in his new book that was just released about 6 months ago called Dark to Darkest. I've been a fan of his. He's a fan of mine. I did Maximum Overdrive, his only directorial movie he ever directed. And he gave me the rights, and I'm developing it with Guy Busick, who did Abigail. And we've just sold it and are making a deal to have to commence to script. So my answer is that empowers you as I try to empower my audiences to do what you are called to do in your life. And so for me, yes, I'll do the Hollywood movies when it fits and it feels right. But what satisfies me, I'm very satisfied by Captain America, don't get me wrong, because I love those guys and I want to create, I love it. But what really satisfies me is don't wait to be great. You see, you have today. Right? Today, what you do today determines your tomorrow. It's that simple. The ideas that the seeds you plant today for what you want and how you want your life to be happen now.
Woo! Oh my God. So first of all, again, I really hope that you'll get another shot at Parish because I really felt very attached to that show. It was a wonderful New Orleans role for you, and it was sensational. But best of luck on the Stephen King project.
Thank you.
Is that going to be for theatrical release, streamer? How's that going to appear?
Woohoo! Theatrical release, baby.
I know.
I'm really excited.
That's fantastic. Good for you. Okay, we've still got time for a couple more questions. Let's keep going.
Okay, so I'll make this snappy. So what haven't you done that you're ready to do since you've done everything already?
Well, not quite everything. That's such an insightful question. I want to do a full-on action picture. You know, I'm really have been looking for my Mr. Nobody, and I've found it. We are shopping it around right now. I have a great director in Takashi Dozier. We are looking for a January start. I want to do a character-driven action piece that's not gratuitous.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
I do feel that way.
Yeah.
And so it's someone, a man of my age who had another occupation in his life. He's suffering from a certain kind of disease where it's not at his finger. He can't remember what that is. And then you see what that is because, you know, his physical reactions to what happened to him are so within him. And it's the combination of finding something that will keep you on the edge of your seat action-wise, but keep you engaged character-wise, to me was very important. It's coming soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hi, Giancarlo. You're the kind of actor that elevates everything that you are in, and we really appreciate that. Can you tell us a little bit about The Boys, and have we seen the last of Stan Edgar?
I love the show called The Boys. We were having such a great conversation about Eric Kripke backstage. Eric and I really click. I think he's a master. We started working together, oddly enough, with the combination of Eric and Jon Favreau back on Revolution.
Oh, what a great show that was, too.
And so that's where I met them both. And so I really respect him. And when Eric asked me to come into this show, I dived in and I tried to think about who this man, Stan Edgar, was. A company man. I worked in restaurants for many years. I was a manager, a waiter, a bartender, and I felt like that was a company position. And I was always in charge of the company. You know, I had to keep the help in line to have the company thrive. We're in a world like this now. Corporations are taking over everything. And who is the corporation? The corporation is you, all the people who work in the corporation. But they become company people, so they become robots. So they're literally on autopilot. And we forget that they're human beings that we should allow ourselves to relate to, and they should relate to us. So you have not seen the last of Stan Edgar.
And by the way, I think Stan is the only person on that show that is not afraid of Homelander. He's not afraid of him.
He is not. Because much like we have to be, or we grow to be as we mature in our lives, we grow to pay more attention to each other, which means we can read each other through our eyes. We can feel each other's energy because we're all energy. We're 90% water and all energetic human beings. So Stan knows what Homelander needs. He looks at this man and sees this pitiful little child who needs attention and love and validation. And Stan is able to somehow, in an awkward way, give him that. But he's not afraid that this guy will laser him. As Stan says, you are not a god. You are simply bad product.
So great. That was great. All right, we have time for one more. We're at the end of our tether, and it's been so incredible. Last question.
Real quick, most memorable audition you ever been on, good or bad?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's an audition out there for Miami Vice that that is actually very, very good. I'll tell you that, quick story. I went in and read for Miami Vice. I probably looked like I was 10 years old. And that's going to be in a documentary very soon about a casting director. But I auditioned for Taylor Hackford. And the scene had me walking in to the room, and and the computer and everything was on his desk. That was written within the scene. So he auditions me in his office. And I walk in, and his desk is full, and I have the brilliant idea that I just got to do the scene. Like, actors, we have this thing, play the reality. So I walk in, and I look at him, and he starts to read the scene. And his phone, his desk, his computer, all of this. And I walk in, and at the moment, and I cleared his fucking desk. And I walk back this way, and he's in shock. He's like in freaking shock. He can't even go on. He's like, what did you just do? I said, I'm doing the scene. He said, get out of here. And I didn't get the part. And I didn't pay for the computer, the phone, nothing. And we eventually became friends, and he thought, what a guy. He liked me, but that was a very bold move. I did it, and I looked at him, and I said, sorry, chum, you should have never had me audition in your office.
Unbelievable. I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with our audience. We have had such an amazing time with you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Giancarlo Esposito.
Vegas. Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
Hi, folks. We're back once again with yet another installment of the Creation Entertainment Pop Culture Cinema Squad. I'm Adam Malin, joined yet again by my esteemed colleague, Miss Kit Bowen. I'm excited because today we get to talk about Jurassic Park. Pretty well much everybody in the world has seen the Jurassic Park franchise of movies, and quite a few of you have read the Michael Crichton novel as well. But Kit, I thought we would do a semi-deep dive, and I know you've done a bunch of research on it.
Yeah.
Any opening thoughts about the franchise overall?
Well, okay, so the first film came out in 1993. Steven Spielberg. We're going to talk a little bit about that, just how groundbreaking it was for its time.
Yeah.
But I immediately was hooked. Now, here's just a funny little side thing, is that my daughter, who was born in 1999, she was about probably 1.5 when I showed her Jurassic Park. She loved it. It was like dinosaurs, mom, dinosaurs, because she didn't want to hear them talking. She just wanted to get right straight to the dinosaurs. And her first movie ever, which was like 2.5, maybe 3, was Jurassic Park 3.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
I mean, I adored it from the moment it happened. I mean,
dinosaurs have been in popular culture forever. I mean, even
Yeah.
as a kid, you go to the Natural History Museum, you see the giant skeletons.
Yes.
It's pretty incredible.
yeah,
But I think what's, to me, is a catalyst point in film history was Spielberg's utilization of the dinosaurs in CG as main
like
characters
first
in the
CG,
film.
like
Yeah.
you could see how it's progressed from 1993 to now too, even.
Yeah.
But yeah, unbelievable.
Well, I think some of the pioneering work that ILM did, which was in the mid to late 80s on films like Terminator 2, where they began to have characters and subjects that were digital and CG, really kind of got perfected for Jurassic Park, the first film.
Yeah.
And just a kind of a fascinating footnote to that is that when Spielberg was developing the dinosaurs with great stop motion animator and sort of film technician Phil Tippett, who did such great work for the Star Wars films, stop motion animating creatures like the Tauntaun and the all-terrain armored transport vehicles that kind of look like dinosaurs themselves.
Yeah.
Spielberg brought in Tippett to develop early prototype animations of the dinosaurs when they were still trying to figure out what the methodologies were going to be to create the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Spielberg knew he wanted to do this in CG, but they hadn't quite gotten all the technology together yet. So Phil Tippett developed this amazing system, and I have a personal connection to this system, which I will tell you. He developed armatures, as we call them, which they use in animation, maquette armatures, for a couple of the dinosaurs that were connected by computer cables to a computer, laptop, and software system.
Wow.
And just like they use motion capture today to capture a subject's movement and then surface texture map the computer CG surface onto this wireframe, as they kind of call it, or this motion capture. Back in those days, Tippett would move the armature, and each 24 to a frame motion was captured in the computer. And so it's a stop motion methodology, kind of like motion capture is today with a real live action subject, that they then surface map the CG imagery onto. So that was sort of the start of how they were going to realize the dinosaurs. But quickly, the technology got to the point where they didn't need to use armatures for motion capture anymore. They were actually able to just basically in the software programs create wireframes of characters that they could then animate and surface map the CG onto. And the reason why I have a personal connection with that early Tippett technology is because my son, the great Sean Malin, who is the archivist and copywriter for the Prop Store, which is out of London and Castaic. My son writes all the copy for them, which itself is incredible, and he researches all the provenance of all these incredible things that they sell. And by the way, some of the biggest buyers of the stuff that the Prop Store sells confidentially are guys like Lucas, Spielberg, Guillermo del Toro. They buy them kind of semi-anonymously. But if you're wondering who's spending the big bucks on these things, it's these famous film guys that are rolling in bucks. Anyway, the Prop Store sold, and Sean had to research the provenance on this Tippett armature, dinosaur armature, with the computer interconnect. It was an early part of the Jurassic Park technology development pipeline. So my son, they sold that to another anonymous buyer, but an incredible piece of film history and
That's
sort of an
amazing.
intermediate point between stop motion and CG.
Mhm.
Of course, beyond that, though, in addition to the incredible CG dinosaurs that they created for Jurassic Park and the subsequent films, were some amazing animatronics by the late, great Stan Winston and his group. And we'll talk a little bit more about Stan Winston in a couple of minutes, but I'm anxious to just kind of get into, first of all, Kit, um, were the films sort of true to Michael Crichton's vision, do you think?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I read the book a long time ago, but it was definitely pretty true to the book. You know,
Yeah.
about getting to this island and you know Hammond and whatnot, trying to basically build a new park that would have featured dinosaurs, right? And brings in Dr. Adam, I'm sorry, Alan Grant. I always want to call him something else. Played by Sam Neill, who's
Great Sam Neill.
wonderful. Laura Dern plays his girlfriend and also in the same field as he. Ellie Sattler.
Allie, yep.
And then the third person they bring in as an expert is Dr. Ian Malcolm, played by the very funny Jeff Goldblum, who basically gets all the great lines.
The great Jeff Goldblum. Now, his character, Ian Malcolm, is a chaos theory
Right.
scientist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I guess it's just basically there's no one way can change to another way in a split second. So you know, he shows Ellie. He goes, "Let me just show you." He drops of water, and it goes down this one way. And he goes, "Okay, so I'm going to do another drop of water. Where do you think it's going to go?" And she goes, "The same thing." And he goes, and he drops it, and it goes a different way. So his whole idea is, you know, don't mess with stuff. Basically, don't try to play God. And he has the best lines of all the movies that he's ever been in for the Jurassic Park.
Oh.
But probably my favorite is he goes, you know, you bought this, you stamp a label on it, you whatever, but you never thought to ask why should we, you know, or should we do this kind of thing. So
Well, I mean, creating dinosaurs out of genetic material from the test tube. What could go wrong?
and B.D. Wong, who's another character that has appeared through much of the franchise, he plays Dr. Henry Wu, who's basically the spearheader of this sort of genetic,
Yeah.
creating these dinosaurs. So.
The first series of films were there 3 of them?
Three.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk us through some
I'm
of
just
them.
saying that let's just stop for a second. Again, Spielberg, he's got to be the most the best filmmaker we've ever had, I think. Ultimately.
Prolific, talented,
But
imaginative.
think about all the times you've gone to a movie, you know, since Jaws, where you sat there and went, it's Spielberg. He directs all of them. I mean, Jaws, of course, was he got his feet wet.
Happy 50th anniversary, Jaws.
Feet wet, you get it?
Yep, you got it.
Where the shark wasn't working. I'm sure he wished he had CG at that point in time.
Well,
So
he
had
also
just
he didn't have Stan Winston at that time,
No,
where
he
that shark
didn't.
would have worked perfectly.
And then there was Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Again, I was like, you know, of course, George Lucas also, I have to throw him in there with Star Wars. I don't remember. But I just remember seeing Jurassic Park and that pivotal scene with the T-Rex, you know, they're on this tour and it's, you know, he's trying to convince these scientists that this is a good thing. Hammond is played by Richard Attenborough.
The great Richard Attenborough.
Yes. And he's got his 2 grandchildren along the way. Of course, we always have to have children somehow mixed into the Jurassic thing. Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards, who play Lex and Timmy. Anyway, you know, so they're on, and then that scene where the T-Rex attacks them in their cars. I mean, come on.
So great. Or how about the
Nowhere, you've never seen a scene like that ever. And I just kept having to say to myself, Spielberg doesn't kill children. Spielberg doesn't kill children. I mean, it was so scary, but also exciting at the same time. I don't know.
What about the dude sitting in the porta potty? That was
the
kinda,
lawyer guy? Yeah,
kinda
he was
screwed up.
Yeah, he was.
Well,
definitely
annoying
not.
characters must be.
Of course. Then then Ian Malcolm also has the great line where he's broken his leg. He's in the back of the car waiting for them to leave because they can't find, Alan and the kids, and he sees the impact tremor and he goes, I'm fairly alarmed here. He goes, we must go, we must go, we must go.
And then there's the great Wayne Knight. For all of you Seinfeld fans, Wayne Knight is there. He's obnoxious. He's going to obviously get eaten too.
Yeah, he gets eaten by the Dilophosaurus, I think, right? That's the thing with
the dudes that spit poison.
Spits like, yeah. That's a great scene. He's trying to basically smuggle off the embryos for these.
Well,
because the bad guys at least for the first three movies is Engine, INGEN, and they're the ones who Dotson is basically, and he actually comes back a little later. He's the one who's he's part of this whole thing, Engine, and in Jurassic Park 2, Lost World, which Spielberg also directed.
Yeah.
And it basically focuses in on Ian and his storyline. Julianne Moore plays his girlfriend, who's also a paleontologist or whatever she is. She's very excited about the prospects of a dinosaur park or dinosaurs on this island. So basically, Hammond says, "Yeah, no, we're not doing the park." After the first one, clearly this is working.
Nubla.
Yeah, Nubar. Yeah, one of those Elas.
Yeah.
We'll just call them Elas.
Yeah.
There's many of them in these movies. Anyway, so now these dinosaurs are living out on this one island, and Julianne Moore is sent there by Hammond to do some research. But the bad Engine people are also coming there, and they want to capture. They still want to do this park thing, right? And the bad guy in this was Arliss Howard. A great character actor. He's been around for a long time. He plays Peter. Anyway, he's sort of the head of it. He's trying to get a T-Rex. He's trying to get he's capturing all of these dinosaurs.
And by the way, these nefarious genetics companies, kind of like Wayland and Alien,
yes,
they always think that they can, appropriate these assets for their own nefarious uses, and it always blows back up in everybody's face. I mean, I'm just saying, it always happens. And by the way, the
Diplothaurus,
the Diplothaurus, when it kind of shoots that mucus thing, kind of reminds me of classmates I had from third grade. It was just, they used to do that kind of thing too.
Would they spit?
Or they'd sneeze and they get all of it. All right, let's talk about some of the dinosaurs, Kit. There's a lot of great dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Tell us some of your favorites.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I'm just going to go through the movies here real quick, but I have to say, really, where we get to the Velociraptors have always been.
They're awesome.
They're awesome, and they're scary as hell.
Of CG and
they're so smart. So in the first one, well, they've learned to open up doors, I guess. And of course, then you see one of them with their claws opening up the door. The great scene in the kitchen with Lexi and Tim trying to escape from the Velociraptors. And then in the second one, they weren't as well. Actually, T-Rex has more of a day in the second one with Lost World. T-Rex is also great. The great thing about these dinosaurs is that at first they're villains, but then as the series has gone along, they have become the heroes in a lot of respects.
As far as I'm concerned, T-Rex can eat all the people he wants to. He's my hero. I love T-Rex. And so this is a good spot to talk about Stan Winston. Now, Stan Winston got enlisted by Spielberg to develop all the practical dinosaurs for at least the first few films.
Right.
And the T-Rex was an amazing case study for him. The thing was huge. It's a huge armature, huge body covering, and it would take like 10 guys to manipulate this thing.
Yeah.
But they had some issues, getting the thing to work.
Right.
And over the course of time, however, Stan developed any number of new hydraulic and electronic technologies that have since gone on to be used in prosthetic animatronic creations and movies over the last couple of decades that were all pioneered by Stan. Wow. So creation fans definitely all you genre fans owe a big debt of gratitude to the great Stan Winston, whom we adore and that we miss very much.
Yeah, he was an unbelievable brain and talent in creating these things.
And his studio still continues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the Velociraptor in the second one, they're in the tall grass, and then all of a sudden you see they're coming at the people, kind of trying to go through the tall grass and eat them. That was scary.
Scary.
And then the third one, Jurassic Park 3. By the way, I have to say one of my other favorite lines from, of course, Ian Malcolm in number 2. He goes, "Oh, sure, there's ooh and ah now, but later there's running and screaming."
As only the great Jeff Goldblum can
can't quite do a Jeff.
enunciate.
Can't do a Jeff impersonate. But in the third one, Jurassic Park 3, the return of Sam Neill as Dr. Alan Grant and Laura Dern as Ellie Sattler.
Yeah.
Grant is sort of coerced into going over one of the islands with this couple played by Tia Leone and William H. Macy, and comes to find out that their son had crash landed on the island with a accident with a hang glider thing. And so they're there to try to rescue him. They're trying to find him. And so Grant has to get involved. But the thing we find out about Velociraptors in 3 is that they communicate. Gunk, gunk. So they talk to each other, and there is this whole stealing of the eggs and them trying to give them the eggs, and then just talking to them. And they've got this little device they make. Alessandro Nivola plays Billy in the third one. He's sort of Grant's new protege type thing, and he's the one who steals the eggs, and so there really isn't a necessarily a bad guy in this one. So it's not an engine situation. It's just this couple trying to find their son, which I thought was really great. And that was directed by Joe Johnston, who also directed the first Captain America.
And alumni of the Lucas Spielberg camps himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he did a great job. I think nobody really gives the third one as much credit as they should. It's kind of underrated, but it's really, really good.
You intimated that the Velociraptors were very intelligent. I think that's one of the main themes that they bring to the Jurassic World franchise with Chris Pratt.
Yes.
Him trying to actually sort of tame the Velociraptors. Yes. So we're gonna get into
all that. So then we jump. So those first 3 were great, and everything's and we're like, I don't know.
Before we get to there. Yeah. We have to give a nod of reverential love to the great John Williams.
The score.
The music, the soundtrack. I mean, those couple of noble themes that are so great. It's sort of like the Pomp and Circumstance theme is one of the noble Jurassic Park themes.
I mean, who is John Williams? Where did this guy come from? I mean, honestly.
Well, I mean,
he's the best composer. Don't you think he is probably the most?
Listen, I love this guy's introductions for Lost in Space back in the 60s.
Did he do those?
Johnny Williams. Yes, he did.
That's one of my favorite theme songs.
Da, 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 da. Yeah, I know. No,
I mean, from Star Wars to Jurassic World to...
He's one of our great treasures.
Superman, that's right, Superman.
I know. In fact, Craig, when he was young, our Superman expert, Craig, when he was young... He used to get up there on the top of a building and jump off the building singing the Superman theme with his cape, hoping that he would stay in the air. He didn't stay in the air, but he could sing a great John Williams Superman tune, however.
Oh my God. He didn't do Harry Potter, though, did he?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
oh my God, he did Harry Potter.
Yeah, he's done so much.
Is he still alive?
So much great stuff. He is still alive. He is still composing way beyond when he's supposed. He's kind of like Shatner. Guys in their 90s that just don't know when to give up.
Well, anyway, he was amazing. The score alone is just it's
allegiant.
It's you hear it and you're just immediately transformed. So so then we're rebooting. So
what can you tell me a little bit about the whole reboot thing? I mean, how did that
so
come about?
In 2015 is when Jurassic World came out.
Yeah. Was Spielberg involved with
He's
that?
He's been involved in all of them.
Yeah, okay.
He did not direct it. The next 3 are directed by Colin Trevorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, all 3 of them.
And those are great films, too.
Well, I'm going to get into it for a sec, okay?
Right,
I'm going to get into it for a sec.
Okay.
So Jurassic World brings it all back, right? I couldn't tell you how excited I was. I mean, Libby and I were both we just couldn't wait for this. The trailers were great. And, you jumpstart however many years since the last incident with Jurassic World and Jurassic Park and the dinosaurs, and they have finally realized the park. They have finally built this park, right? This giant, dinosaur park with all the rides and all the, any kind of a theme park sort of.
Is it an island or?
It's on an island.
It's on an island.
So you're taken there like, like a cruise and kind of thing. Bryce Dallas Howard, we're introduced to Bryce. She plays Claire. She's
they have those bubble things that you can sit in, kind of like
those kids again.
Yeah,
they show up. So her nephews basically come for a visit, and and then we have Chris Pratt, who great addition to the whole thing. I thought he was fantastic. He plays what's his name? Owen, and he's a Velociraptor whisperer. So he has imprinted on 3 of these Velociraptors, including his favorite, Baloo.
This is
And
kind of
Blue-
like Siegfried and Roy with the
Blue
tigers. I'm just
has a
saying.
blue thing on his. Anyway, so we've got this new park, and the guy who owns the park is played by a great actor, Ethan Khan. He put Maserati is his name in the film, and then we also have Vincent D'Onofrio, who's kind of the baddie engine guy.
Who we adore.
Yes, we adore him.
He's
But he's the
fantastic.
one who wants to weaponize Velociraptor. So he thinks, oh, Chris Pratt can train him. Great, let's train him to be, military. Blah blah blah.
We must have some D'Onofrio fans out there, right? The dude is from Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick. He's
Daredevil,
Kingpin on Daredevil. We love the guy.
Yeah,
he's cool.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Right.
Anyway, he plays the baddie engine guy
Yeah.
in the Jurassic World.
Right.
So you come to find out that they're doing more genetic testing with these dinosaurs. So look, they've got all this technology, they've got all this DNA. Let's make a bigger dinosaur. So they make the Indominus Rex, which is a combination of T-Rex and Velociraptor. So he's smart, and he's big, and he's mean, and he wants to get out of his pen. And, they're only doing this because they have to make their investors happy, or the people who come to the theme park happy. Let's make something scarier, blah, blah, blah. Of course, that's not a good idea. Chris Pratt says that. Bigger, badder dinosaur? I don't think that's a good idea, he says.
Well, I keep warning them. They keep making these genetic combinations. You end up with something that's got the body of a crab and the head of a social worker. Sorry, I think I used that joke too many times.
Anyway, it was a fantastic movie. It really, really brought it all back. Of course, things go horribly wrong, and this is where the T-Rex becomes the hero. He and Blue, the T-Rex and Blue. So basically,
Oh, well, by the way, there's that great scene in Jurassic Park. I don't want to forget about that. When the T-Rex comes marching into that building, and then the banner comes falling down when dinosaurs ruled the world. I mean, it's just the greatest. That's the greatest.
He's flipped the Velociraptors around.
Kind of like flipping his hair back, like he's such a fashion plate.
He is.
So
I
great.
love T-Rex.
Yeah, we love T-Rex.
I think Blue is my favorite, though. Ultimately, if you ask me that question, I'd say Blue, the
Yeah.
Velociraptor, is my favorite. But I
Yeah.
do like T-Rex. So at the very end of Jurassic World, Indominus Rex is, basically trying to get the Velociraptors to work with him, but Chris Pratt's able to break through with his Blue. It's like, Blue,
Yeah.
this guy's no
And then
good.
they tag team with T-Rex.
And then they tag team with T-Rex.
Which is great.
So we need more teeth, is what the little kid says.
That's
More
right.
teeth. So Claire goes to get the T-Rex. So that was great. That was a great movie. Fully great. Of course, that it made a ton of money, and they're going to have to do more, right? So then we have Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which came out in 2008.
Yeah. What'd you think about that?
Well, you want my honest opinion?
Yeah,
I
that's
thought it
what
was
this is.
sad. It's sad. So now Claire has, of course, she's no longer the corporate monkey that she was before. She's like now a pro dinosaur situation, and she wants to make sure that they are taken care of. So
Yeah.
Chris is back again, and they're actually together, sort of.
Yeah.
And
right.
they end up going back to the island, and because the island is basically going to explode from a volcano. And somehow they're trying to
Pesky volcanoes.
get some of the dinosaurs off. I don't exactly remember. I mean, all I know is the saddest scene. They're floating. They're boating away from the island. The volcano has exploded, and
Dinosaurs are flying into the water.
the very benign brontosauruses with the long nose on the
Terrible.
end of the neck going. "Ooh." You're like, oh my god, this is so sad. But what happened?
Kind of reminds me of like when 65 million years ago when the asteroid hit the Earth and the dinosaurs got. I think that's sort of riffing on that theme.
Kind of, yes. Obviously, they didn't know that the island was going to, volcanic, it was going to explode, but that's very sad. But the bad guys again, now this time it's not Engine, so to speak. It's Rafe Spall, who's a great British character.
Love him.
He is working with, or he's supposedly close to James Cromwell's character, who actually worked with Hammond.
Right.
So it was Hammond and Lockwood who kind of came up with the idea of this
Great
whole
James
thing. And so
Cromwell.
he's there and in this giant house, and you come to find out that Wraith is gathering all of these dinosaurs to sell them off to the highest bidder. So he's brought the dinosaurs
screwed
to
up.
the mainland.
Right.
That's the main thing.
That's a smart move.
And then you've got the
in
granddaughter.
those cages that, of course, you can always count on.
And that was sad
cages.
too. These poor animals caged up. Anyway, it was kind of a sad movie. And then you had the
Well,
character Maisie.
and then PETA shows up. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals shows up, and
Exactly.
they want to let the dinosaurs out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's of course everything goes wrong again, and then the dinosaurs are let loose onto the mainland. And like I said, they introduce another character, Maisie, this little girl. She is the granddaughter of James Cromwell. We come to find out she's actually a clone of the granddaughter or the daughter, who passed away. Anyway, she becomes sort of the ward of Chris Pratt and Bryce's characters, Claire and Owen. They sort of adopt her,
Now, before we talk
but
about
they still want her because she's cloned. See, that's the thing.
right,
The
Well,
engine people want her because she's got, some of that technology.
Go.
So Jurassic World
Yeah,
Dominion
right.
was the fail. That was a fail, unfortunately. They tried too much. What they tried to do was combine the Jurassic World people, and then they brought Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum back. And it was just too muddled. It was just, they go back to the island, and then the bad guy is Dotson, played by Campbell Scott, who we love. I love Campbell Scott. And he
I
is
love
also
Campbell
trying
soup.
to he's also trying to do something nefarious with, I can't even remember what he was trying to do. All I know is it was kind of a mess ultimately, and it wasn't. I liked it because I'm never gonna not like a Jurassic Park movie, but
Yeah.
it was definitely, out of all of them,
Going to the
people-
well one too many times.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So then they had to kind of take another breather, and then we've got what came out this year, a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, Jurassic World Rebirth.
Rebirth.
Now, here's the great story about this. Scarlett Johansson, who stars in it, she
Yeah.
plays sort of a mercenary type person. She's for hire kind of thing. Her character's name is Aura. When she was probably just a little bit older than Livy, not that well, a little bit older than Livy. In '93, she was like 8 or something when the first came out. She loved it so much. She had a tent out in their yard where she would just live in the tent, think there are dinosaurs around her and stuff. Loved it.
It's cute.
And as she became a pretty famous actress, every time she heard they were making more movies, she wanted to be part of it. She'd call her agent. She'd go, "Hey, can I get in on this one?" And they never quite worked out. But then, of course, here she is, finally, in her own Jurassic Park movie. And just, having the time of her life, you can just tell. Anyway, she plays a mercenary who works with Mahershala Ali, who's another great actor. And
True
they've known-
Detective.
Yes, and they've Green Book, and they've have worked together in this scenario, and they
Now,
are.
what's the setup?
The setup is Rupert Friend, who's another great British actor, another guy who's easy to look at him.
Yeah.
He is a pharmaceutical, CEO, and apparently there are some qualities to the one left island that they have, because now that all the dinosaurs have come to the mainland, come to find out they can't survive in the environment that is on the mainland,
Right.
U.S., wherever. So they're dying out. So there are no more real dinosaurs on the mainland anymore. So the only dinosaurs left in the world are on another island somewhere near the equator, where the conditions are favorable from what they used to know back in the day. So now they're all proliferating on this island. Of course, InGen also was on this island, and what did they do? They also do genetic experiments. So we've
Only
got
this time they created
more.
a mutant dinosaur.
Well, it looks like the cross between alien,
yeah.
like the
Screwed up.
xenomorph,
Yeah.
and a T-Rex, and also has some Velociraptor in there, and
Yeah.
it's
nasty
it's
and
nasty.
deadly. Right.
But
But
apparently,
fans seem to really like them though.
But apparently, in this scenario, there are properties in each type of dinosaur that could actually help cure heart disease and things like that.
Yeah.
So they have to go to the island with Jonathan Bailey, who I love from Wicked and Bridgerton. He's the only doctor, and he knows about the different dinosaurs' blood, and they have to get these blood samples from these dinosaurs.
Right.
One from the water, one from the air, and one on land. Okay, so they have like these little. Actually, it was kind of cool. These like little automatic, like syringe things that they'd shoot into the dinosaur, and then when the blood was filled up, it would shoot out. So they didn't actually have to go and get it, and it would come down. And anyway, so they get the water. The water one at first was very exciting. Of course, we're also have to throw in the layman people, the civilians. So we've got this cruise boat with a father and his two daughters, and the daughter, the older daughter's boyfriend, and they get attacked by one of the because they get too close to the island, so they get attacked by one of the sea dinosaurs, and they end up having to be part of this whole expedition as well. So they have to not only get the blood, but then they have to get off because they've got this family in jeopardy kind of thing. So the water stuff was fantastic.
Speaking of sea monsters like Meg, I love the Meg films.
Do you?
I do, yeah.
I mean, they're so dumb, they're good, kind of thing.
Well, I love Jason.
I love Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so so they finally get the blood from the sea one, and then they get onto the island, and of course, it's just all havoc leaving loose. And not only is there a hybrid T-Rex thing, whatever the heck that is, there also is a hybrid pterodactyl velociraptor. So it's a pterodactyl flies, but it's got the smarts of a velociraptor. So they're being chased by that particular dinosaur, and then the big baddie dinosaur at the end. And of course, they do end up getting off the island and get all the blood that they need and that kind of thing. And of course, Rupert Friend being the bad guy, he wants to hold on to it and make a ton of money off of it, rather than release it to the Gen Pop and then have everybody have a chance to be cured by, So he doesn't make it. Spoiler alert, he doesn't make it.
Well, is it set up for a sequel?
Well, I think so. I mean, but here's the deal. I just like you're saying, tapping the well too much or going to the well too much. I'm not sure what they can move forward to, because now the dinosaurs can't leave the island. I mean, they're going to die if they do. So they have to just be on this island. So then what is it, just another group of people getting onto the island? So I'm just if they do another sequel, and I'm sure they will because it's made a lot of money. What do we do next? How do we go next?
Well, this dovetails into a brief discussion we should have about the real world, where they are now supposedly cloning extinct species. And I guess they've cloned the dire wolf already. There's a company that has cloned the dire wolf, which I guess there were real dire wolves, and they've been cloned now, and they are on the verge of cloning woolly mammoths. Very, very close.
What?
Like in the next year or so.
Really? I didn't hear this.
There's a genetics company that's doing that.
Are they called Ingen?
No. But the inference is that Crichton's vision that we could take genetic material and potentially recreate extinct species is very close to reality now. In fact, it's becoming reality. So it does bring up the whole ethical question. If we can, should we be bringing back extinct species?
I wouldn't say woolly mammoths because we have elephants. I mean, it's kind of
different species for sure. Woolly mammoths were.
I mean, I would say, gosh, I don't know. That's a tough question because some animals have gone extinct because of us.
They're talking about bringing back dodos.
Okay, I didn't know they were extinct. Yes,
dodos they're extinct. Yeah. And some other things.
I mean, it's sad. It's sad to hear when animals do go extinct because of our waste.
So I think there's sort of a lot of ethical quandaries that are going to come up in the next 50 years as genetics experiments just get, even their ability to manipulate, gene sequences is crazy. Now, the latest thing that they've discovered is that they used to be able to only DNA trace back to, let's say, 100,000 years. And they got it back to about 1 million years. But they have with AI, they have a new method of taking soil and finding little genetic snippets in the soil. And with AI, they can do, trillions of computations. They're able to infer from the soil what species lived as much as 3 or 4 million years ago from this soil. And it turns out that in places like Alaska, it was like the tropics, like 4 million years ago.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
So really, the whole thing that Jurassic Park gets into, which is extinct genes, should they be harnessed for our use today?
Yeah.
What good will they serve, or what bad will they serve? We're going to be living out in the real world in the years to come.
Well, it's kind of like it's sort of like the Terminator thing, right? AI guys, do none of you watch those movies? Do you not know what happens with AI? doesn't go so well. So if they're trying to clone dinosaurs, God help us. Watch Jurassic Park, please, because don't do something stupid like that.
Well, anyway, I think it all really goes back to Steven Spielberg's amazing vision, creating an incredible
Well, actually,
kind of
let's
filmed entertainment.
go back to Michael Crichton, who's an amazing storyteller as
Yeah.
well as a writer. He was fantastic.
And then Spielberg again
Visually.
realizing that he could visualize something like that and going through the technology steps necessary to actually do that. I think it's an incredible story for film entertainment.
I do want to put out there though, if you guys like the Jurassic thing, where do you see it going from here after Rebirth? I'd love to see comments on that. Like, how do you see the next kind of story going? What would happen? So
as well as
let us
any
know.
additional production notes on the making of these films, the technologies that were used and evolved to create them. That's all fascinating stuff. Send us those comments and information. We'll feed them back to you guys in future discussions.
Yeah, I would love to hear what you guys thought. So yeah,
Anyway, scholarly deep dive there, Kit. Thank you. I
that was
appreciate
fun.
it. Yeah,
that was fun.
and as always, thanks for watching us, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was fantastic. One of the best.
I love Jurassic Park and World, but I love
Doesn't.
Giancarlo Esposito even more. What a great guy.
So what's in the news, Kit?
Well, kind of exciting news, to be honest. We just launched our first ever Rescue Verse, a salute to TV's First Responders Convention, which is happening next May in Nashville. We already have 4 great guests from the show The Rookie, and we're going to have some great new guests from other shows as well, highlighting those TV responders that we love so much. So definitely check it out. Go to the calendar. It's May 30th through 31st in Nashville.
Also, coming up this weekend, it's super close. We have 2 events. How do we do it? I don't know, but it's a lot of fun. We have the Road So Far, the Road Ahead Supernatural Tour in Austin, August 22nd through 24th, as well as the Trek Tour, Trek to Orlando, August 23rd through 24th. All of your favorite stars are going to be at both of these conventions. Are you a Supernatural fan? Are you a sci-fi fan? We've got a convention for you this weekend. Go to creationent.com for tickets and information. Once again, that's creationent.com. We will see you there. That's it for us, right, Kit?
Yeah, that's it. Make sure to subscribe and do all that fun stuff down below. So
it is fun. We'll see you next time. Thanks very much on the
Bye.
Creation Entertainment Podcast.